In lesson 1, we are going to start talking about the idea of dividing with fractions. We are going to see why we divide fractions by fractions and whole numbers through models first. And then after we've learned why this process works, we're going to go into the division algorithm. So I just ask you to ask parents to refrain from showing you the way that they know how to divide fractions until we've gotten through the models. Because we will get there, just it's going to be a few lessons in. All right, so the opening exercise here is asking us to draw a model of the fraction 3/4. So one way to think of 3/4 is that in words, it means 3 out of 4. Okay, so one way we can draw this, and we're going to kind of stick to these rectangular models for this because it's just easier to work with when dividing fractions. So I would draw a whole, okay, and then I would split it into 4 equal size sections, the best you can do, and then I would shade in 3 of those 4 sections. So that would be 3 out of 4 or 3/4. Okay, so just a little review of what a fraction actually means first. Okay, so example 1 says Maria has 3/4 pounds of trail mix. She needs to share it equally among 2 people. How much will each person be given? Draw a model. So the first thing we're looking at is an expression, and just to remind you, an expression is a math problem that does not have an equal sign and an answer with it. So it's just the actual operation of what we're doing. So in this case, we're starting with 3/4 pounds. So we're going to take the 3/4 pounds of trail mix, and we're going to share it equally, which is another way of saying divide. We're going to divide it among 2 people. So we're going to take the 3/4 pounds of trail mix and divide it up by 2 people. When we start with a fraction in a division problem, we're going to start by drawing that fraction. So we have 4 equal sized parts here, and to show 3/4, we would shade in 3 of those 4. So just like we had in that opening exercises, we still have 3/4. I'm actually going to label this shaded part as the 3/4. So now what we are going to do, since we are dividing by 2, we are going to divide this shaded part, and we're actually going to divide the whole into 2 equal parts by drawing a line horizontally through the picture. So now, whenever we're talking about fractions, it's always in comparison to the whole. 3 out of 4 means 4 pieces make the whole, and we're looking at 3 out of those. So what we're doing is we are splitting the whole pound into 2 equal parts. So on my side here is where I'm going to show that I've made 1, 2 equal parts. Now it's asking for each person. So what would each person get? How many pounds of trail mix? So if you think that this is one person and this is a second person, what I like to do to show this is I circle the number of shaded pieces. You can either circle it in just one of the rows, or you can circle it in both if you choose. Each person is getting 3 parts, so 3 shaded pieces, out of however total pieces are in the whole now. So before it was 3 out of 4, now each person is going to get 3 shaded pieces out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 whole parts in the pound. Okay, so we've split the whole pound up, and this is the fraction of the entire pound that each of the 2 people would get. Okay, let's look at a different example. So example 2 says, imagine that you have 2/5 of a cup of frosting that you need to split equally between 3 desserts. How much frosting would go on each of the desserts? So we've got 2/5 of a cup of frosting that we are splitting equally or dividing up amongst 3 desserts. So you'll notice we have the 5 equal parts. We are going to shade in 2 of those, so that represents the fraction of the cup that we have. I'm going to also label that piece right here as 2/5. Now I'm going to split it equally among 3 desserts, and the way I'm going to show this is by drawing lines horizontally to create 3 sections. Anytime you're splitting into a number, so here I'm splitting into 3, I'm going to draw 1 less line than the number of sections I need. So in this case, 1 less than 3 is 2. So I'm going to draw 2 horizontal lines all the way across that entire cup of frosting. I'm also going to show that I did in fact create 3 parts for the 3 desserts. Since I'm looking at each dessert, I'm going to circle 1 of the colored parts in a row and count how many parts there are. So in that shaded section or that circled part, it's 1, 2 shaded pieces. So 2. And then I'm going to count how many sections I've turned the entire cup of frosting into. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's out of 15 total parts. So each dessert would get 2/15 of a cup of frosting. Okay, so the idea here once again is we're going to start by drawing the fraction. So we'll model the fraction. We'll then split it horizontally into the whole number parts. Circle the colored piece or shaded part of one of those. The number of shaded parts in that circle is our numerator. And then the denominator consists of the number of total parts in the entire whole.